everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is November 8, 2020. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Eagle News correspondent El Aguilar spoke to some folks in Delaware last night, where President-elect Joe Biden addressed the nation after his projected win upon taking Pennsylvania. They shared with Eagle News their hopes and expectations of the Biden-Harris administration. Next, we have Anne-Ray Rayutatar in Panorama City, California.
Los Angeles voters, celebrities react to expected victory of Biden and Harris 2020 election.
Bureau Chief Joanne Soriano in New York takes us to Times Square, where New Yorkers were out celebrating the Biden-Harris projected win. In Atlanta, Georgia, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo reports about how two groups of Atlanteans are reacting to the Biden-Harris victory. Eagle News correspondent Irish Dale Radam in Micronesia shares with us thoughts of Americans in overseas territories about recurrent issues during elections. A musician in Hawaii encouraged fellow citizens to exercise their right to vote every election. Eagle News correspondent Mio Sanas has that story for us. Next, we have Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Canada copes with climbing COVID cases.
Bureau Chief Mila Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
$20 million assistance for homeless Pennsylvanians.
Plus, in Las Vegas, Lori Jarvina.
Nevada governor proposes state agencies' 12% budget cut over the next 2 years.
And Nanita Manawis of our Texas team shows us how to upscale our home decor, furniture, and walls using paint. And for our virtual roundtable discussion, we will talk about National Cappuccino Day. How do we enjoy our favorite cup? Our coverage begins now. First, an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, November 8, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 50,200,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases. Number one, U.S., close to 10 million, followed by India with 8.5 million, and Brazil at 5.6 million. Sadly, more than 1,254,000 lives worldwide have succumbed to this virus. Top three countries again with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are U.S. with more than 237,000, followed by Brazil, more than 162,000, and lastly, India, more than 126,000. On to our headlines. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden took the first steps on Sunday towards taking over the White House 73 days from now, but Donald Trump shows no signs of being ready to admit defeat. As congratulations poured in from world leaders, Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris launched a transition website, buildbackbetter.com, and a Twitter feed at Transition46. While Trump refuses to concede Tuesday's election and most Republican lawmakers are adopting a studied silence, former President Bush. Republican lawmakers are adopting a studied silence. Former President W. Bush said the outcome is clear. 74-year-old Bush, the only living Republican ex-president, said he had called President-elect Biden and Harris to extend his warm congratulations. While Trump has the right to request recounts and pursue legal challenges, Bush said the American people can have confidence that this election was fundamentally fair. Its integrity will be upheld and its outcome is clear. Bush said in a statement, though we have political differences, I know Joe Biden to be a good man who has won his opportunity to lead and unify our country. We must come together for the sake of our families and neighbors and for our nation and its future. The transition website lists 4 priorities for an administration led by Barack Obama's former vice president: COVID-19, economic recovery, racial equity, and climate change. Meanwhile, Sam Fullwood III, a fellow at the Center for Congressional and Presidential Studies at American University, says Donald Trump has no standing to challenge the result of the U.S. presidential election in court after he lost to Democrat Joe Biden. Take a look.
Two ways of looking at this. One is that he is seeking to sow disinformation to make at least his supporters believe that he's fighting to win, which they like that fighting spirit, or to make his supporters believe that America is so corrupt that he could not have gotten a fair shake in this. The other thing that could be is that he lives in a fantasy world of his own making, and that he just has to find enough space in his mind to accept the reality. There is no basis on which he has standing to go to court. What he is going to allege in court documents, we'll have to wait and see what that is. I can't even fabricate what kind of an argument that would be credible that he could take to a court. So having said that, I can't imagine that anything that he would bring about would have any success in court.
Fullwood also says it will be very difficult for a president to bind fractures in one term, but he hopes that President-elect Biden is able to do so.
And in a democracy with all of those different fracture points, it becomes very, very difficult for an individual, particularly a president, over the course of one term, to be able to bind all of those different fractures. I hope that President-elect Biden is able to do that. I don't know how optimistic I am that it's going to be easy. He admits that it's not going to be easy.
Fullwood says having Vice President-elect Kamala Harris's election is a remarkable sign of change.
We have Joe Biden picking an African-American woman and to make history on his own in the vice president slot. That is remarkable. That is probably the most remarkable thing about this election. It is a sign of how America can change.
Now on to our updates. It was a busy Saturday in Wilmington, Delaware, hometown to President-elect Joe Biden, as the Democratic Party and its supporters celebrated the projected victory for the Biden-Harris team. Eagle News correspondent with our New Jersey bureau chief, Carlo Valdez, were there to witness the celebrations. Take a look.
After days of exhausting consequential presidential election, Democrat Joe Biden is declared the 46th President of the United States. Biden took the stage Saturday night in his hometown, Wilmington, Delaware, and vowed to unify the country. Biden, who secured more than 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency, also said that he sought the office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of the nation, to make America respected around the world again. Reports say the president-elect hinted that he would build his administration quickly, focusing on the pandemic. Some analysts say there is no indication whether President Donald Trump will cooperate. Trump refuses to concede, threatening to pursue legal action on ballot counting. Meantime, Biden supporters have expressed their hope and expectations to the new president of the United States. Let's take a listen.
My expectations are we're going to get COVID under control. We're not going to have 100,000 cases of COVID a day like we are now. We're going to get the economy going. We're going to take care of people, and we're going to build the best country ever in history.
I'm just hoping that the country becomes unified again and we can all come back together as one people and one country. Exactly.
I would like for things to be addressed with COVID, of course. We've lost way too many people, so COVID needs to be addressed. Unity needs to be addressed. Racism needs to be addressed. Equality needs to be addressed. Inclusion for women needs to be addressed. Our world is definitely headed in the right direction with Biden in.
I would expect that Biden will address this pandemic. I find it appalling that the numbers, here we are in November, and the numbers are up 100,000, 110,000, 120,000, like it's climbing. And I'm like, I was looking at the per capita. We're one of the highest per capita countries in the world. And we are one of the richest countries in the world. It shouldn't be that way. So my first thought is control the pandemic. The second part is, all right, once we get that under control, maybe come up with a federal policy to address, everybody wear masks, everybody stay at home, whatever it is. Then we work on the economy. I know that was the number one concern for my fellow citizens, and so I think it should be addressed. My other thought is, doesn't do you much good if you're dead from COVID if the economy's good. So my first thought is make COVID, take care of COVID, then we take care of the economy.
My real hopes are that I can get some rest. To tell you the truth, I haven't slept well at all, and every day it seems like I worry about what's going to happen next. What did he say this time? What did he say that time? And I feel like I can have some peace. It may not come for a little bit, but my hopes are that, again, I think the key thing is that we reach out to our allies again. We've lost a lot of people around the world, and I hope that we can work as a country and a nation with others as well as within our own United States.
My expectations are that it will not be easy. That the first thing we need to do is get a grip on this COVID so I don't have to talk through a mask. I work in education, and my hope for the future for the children of this country is that we will again be healed and move forward in the direction that we came at the end of 2016.
From Wilmington, Delaware, El Aguilar, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Al, for that report. We look forward to more of your updates. When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondent in Panorama City, Edmonton, Alberta, and New York, New York. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Hello there. Imagine Demi got the virus, and she infected 2 more. And those 2 infected a lot more of people. And it goes on and on until it became an epidemic. But what if Demi stayed at home? Then those 2 wouldn't have contracted the virus. Then those people would have not been infected. This is not just your battle, it's everyone's, and you can be a huge help. Follow social distancing, or better yet, stay at home.
You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui here in Las Vegas. In Los Angeles, voters, including celebrities, react to the projected victory of President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. In Panorama City, Anray Rayutatar joins us tonight. Anray?
Thank you, Anna. Los Angeles voters, including celebrities, react to the expected victory of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in this 2020 election. Angelinos joined celebrations in the streets like singer-songwriter John Legend and wife model Chrissy Teigen. The pair drove through West Hollywood celebrating with Biden supporters from their car. Describing her experience in West Hollywood, Teigen tweeted, "Everyone is so beautiful, so happy, I'm crying." Actor Kerry Washington also took to Twitter, thanking everyone who used their vote and their voice to make history. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti who has been an outspoken supporter of the Biden-Harris ticket, congratulated the president and vice president-elect and stated that he looked forward to working hand-in-hand with them to strengthen the city as well as the entire country. The mayor also took this opportunity to talk about the new official ballot drop boxes that were installed across Los Angeles for this election. Garcetti announced that these boxes will not be removed, but will instead remain where they are in order to give Angelenos an easier voting experience for future elections. This move by the mayor serves to highlight just how impactful this presidential election has been to Los Angeles. And due to the record voter turnout, state ballot measures received an extra helping of attention. Now, it's important to note that results won't be officially certified until December 11th. But as of this time, the projected outcome for these propositions are already available. A couple of these ballot measures that we previously reported on were Proposition 18 and 22. According to the last update, 55% of voters shot down Prop 18's call to allow 17-year-olds to vote in primary and special elections so long as they will be 18 and eligible by the next general election. Proposition 22 results were a bit more decisive, with 58% voting in favor of allowing app-based transportation and delivery drivers to be categorized as independent contractors. This is a big win for rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft, who have maintained that the majority of their hired drivers prefer the freedom and flexibility to work as freelancers. Let's listen in to some of these residents' reactions. Let's take a look.
I am genuinely so excited that Joe Biden has won the presidency, because not only does he have executive orders ready and waiting January 21st when he is inaugurated, but he also has plans to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and also the World Health Organization. And after this last year of dealing with COVID, I think that we definitely deserve a president who cares about both his supporters and his non-supporters, and someone who cares about reuniting the American people.
Although I believe that Joe and Kamala are not the most perfect candidates for the presidency and vice presidency, Donald Trump's rhetoric has truly empowered and emboldened sentiments of anti-immigration, anti-feminist, anti-POC, and anti-science, amongst other problematic views that have truly been detrimental to populations of people throughout the world. Moving forward, I hope that people recognize that voting is not the only way to mobilize and advocate for marginalized communities. I ask whoever's watching this that there's still a lot of work to be done. Join the grassroots organizations and to keep fighting.
Because of those programs that I really believe he's concerned about the health of the people, not only here in California, but how to do it throughout the whole world. For concerning the environment, yes, I believe that he will do, because as of now, that the environmental program that will help my people, my children, not only the people again of California, the whole wide world. Again, about the racism. So we will fight for that. That there is no color, there is no race, but should be divided, should be equally treated.
However, Angelenos voted. This election was of obvious importance, and days after the projected results were announced, the emotions and opinions that captured the nation's attentions were still at the forefront of their thoughts. In Panorama City, California, Andre Rio Tatar, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Anna?
Thank you, Andre, for your report. Now, has the celebrity voice completely been in support of Biden, or were there those who wanted the Trump administration to win?
Well, Anna, we don't have the data detailing exactly which celebrities supported Biden or Trump, but what we do know is that there is a variety of famous and influential people who are hoping for a Trump victory. These celebrities included actors and musicians and athletes. Now, whether or not some of these celebrities have conceded defeat remains to be seen. However, when it comes to the candidate they were backing, we already see that President Trump is unwilling to throw in the towel just yet. Anna?
Thanks, Andre. You're absolutely right. So I'm sure we will hear more of that That story is yet to be written. Well, thank you, Anne Ray, for your report. You continue to stay safe there. In New York City, streets were filled with supporters of the Biden-Harris team as the news of Joe Biden taking Pennsylvania, giving him a projected lead over Donald Trump. Sounds of cheering and horn honking filled the recently eerie streets of the city that never sleeps. In New York, Bureau Chief Joanne Soriano reports.
New York City erupted in celebration at news that Joe Biden had surpassed the 270 Electoral College votes needed to become the 46th President of the United States. Cheering, cowbells, and honking of horns could be heard in the Upper East Side and in Midtown, reminiscent of the applause done earlier in the year for frontline workers at the height of the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, in Washington Square Park, residents joined together in singing Imagine by John Lennon. We spoke to some residents about what Biden's victory today meant to them and what issues they wanted to see tackled first.
A reason to be hopeful again. It means we've taken a strong stand against inequality and bigotry and all the things that Trump represented. I think having a comprehensive plan for combating COVID in this country is the first thing I'd like to see addressed, because that's kind of the most pressing, most emergent thing.
Honestly, it means three things. It means freedom, equality, and justice. I think the first and most important thing is our response to COVID-19. Obviously, it's dismal. We've had over 121,000 cases in the last 3 days, and we need some relief for the people of this country as well.
I would really love to see people restore jobs and employment rates. I would hope that there's hope for small businesses again and that the entrepreneur spirit still lives on. I think it means so much for female empowerment and women. To see a woman in such a high office in the White House just shows that together we can do anything. It doesn't matter if you're male or female.
In New York, Joanne Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Joanne, for your report. That certainly is a different scene there in New York that we haven't seen in a while. When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Atlanta, Georgia, Micronesia, and Honolulu, Hawaii. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Final volume 450. The 5 on to 100%. Standing by. Construction.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. The state of Georgia flipped blue in the recent U.S. presidential election, and this made some Atlantans very happy, but some not so. In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo files this report.
Thanks, Anna. As our viewers are well aware, the U.S. media outlets have widely projected that former Vice President Joe Biden has claimed victory in the U.S. 2020 presidential election, as he is now edged ahead of current President Trump in several of the key battleground states. Georgia is one of those states, and as such, this projection this weekend, as it began circulating, people took to the streets. However, not all were there for the same reason. Now, the city of Atlanta and the surrounding suburbs have generally gone blue in the past several elections, and this year doesn't appear to be very different. As we were walking down a major street by Piedmont Park, which is a huge park right in the middle of Midtown Atlanta, there was a long line of cars sitting in traffic, which by itself in pre-pandemic Atlanta would not be unusual. But this time, many cars were honking, passengers were hanging in out of sunroofs, many were waving American flags, and some were just in the streets dancing, celebrating the presumed victory of the Biden-Harris ticket. At the same time, groups of people gathered in the state capitol, but instead of celebrating like their fellow Georgians across town, the downtown crowd was rallying against alleged election fraud and that President Trump himself would eventually claim victory. Contrary to the jubilant atmosphere on the other side of town, many of these protesters were armed. And from what I was able to see, just for the record, mask use in both of these crowds was pretty mixed. It's important to note that while most media outlets have projected a winner, it's actually going to be a few days or even a few weeks before we technically have a certified result. Georgia itself, like I mentioned before, is a key battleground state, and as of Friday, the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, reported that there were 22,600 military, overseas, and provisional votes that still needed to be counted. And as of this morning, Biden was ahead in Georgia by just about 10,000 or so votes. To intensify the spotlight on Georgia, we have 2 Senate seats that appear to be headed for a runoff. One is just your regular election for a federal senator, and on the other hand, another one is a special election to replace a senator who had to retire early. Now, Georgia law requires congressional candidates to win a majority of the vote, and since so far neither candidate in either race has at least 50%, it's very likely that Georgians will have a special runoff election in just a few weeks. Now, you may be asking, why is this important? Well, as of now, it appears that Democrats will hold about 46 seats compared to a projected 48 so far on the Republican side. There's 2 independent senators who normally caucus with the Democrats, so these 2 seats in Georgia will very likely determine who remains in control of the Senate, and likewise how much legislative gridlock we will have over the next few years. Now, Anna, with all of these presumptions and projections and everything that's going around, there's one thing that I know for sure. Georgians, we better brace ourselves for more political scrutiny and campaign ads for at least the next several weeks. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Philip Toledo, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Philip, for your report. We'll look forward to more of your updates there. Now, our Eagle News correspondent in Micronesia, Irishdale Radham, spoke to some Americans in overseas territories and asked their opinions about issues that recur during elections. Take a look.
I'm one who believes that the status quo is okay as far as our relationship with the United States and being a territory.
The president is the symbol of democracy and a free nation. And people do not realize Guam is a part of that. So it only depicts the situation we're in. We're not able to vote for him. We might as well not be a part of him, right?
Under current law, American citizens who claim residency in one of 5 U.S. territories are not entitled to participate in the presidential elections. One of those territories in the West Pacific is the island of Guam. Given the recent 2020 elections and ongoing uncertainties, Americans in Guam like Lawrence Payne share his frustration for not being able to take part in the said election process.
Well, it's a conflict of many layers. One, taxation without representation is the loudest cry. So we pay taxes on Guam, yet we do not have a voice of empowerment that dictates the level of tax or the amount of tax. So therefore, that's one of the biggest hurts, that we pay tax without proper representation.
Meanwhile, in American Samoa, The question of whether to remain as a territory or as an independent country comes and goes. Many of the residents here prefer things the way they are, while others focus more on immediate issues.
I just don't think independence is in the future for us. I don't think we have the resources that it takes to be independent, which is, with me, fine. I think the money that we get from the United States, as far as supplying, much of our economy, is deserving. I hear a lot of talk sometimes about American Samoa being a welfare state, and for me, that's farthest from the truth. I think it's just a matter of the relationship that the United States chose with us, and it makes them responsible, probably make things work towards a better future. I think immigration would be at the top of the list. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can address, but I think immigration is a big problem, particularly when it comes to our economy. And when I say that, I mean that there's a lot of money that's leaving our economy, leaving the island, because of the people we have here as far as immigration. I know it's a necessity, but if you look at the groups here, like for example the Filipino community, if you ask them how much of their paycheck stays here and how much of their paycheck leaves the island, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a surprising number that's probably not going to benefit the people of American Samoa. And that goes for the Chinese, who's probably the worst offenders. I wouldn't be surprised if over 90% of their money leaves off island and isn't isn't in the economy here locally. And then you have, our own brothers and sisters from the independent state of Samoa, where 80% of them, make up the factory workers at the canneries, and most of their money gets sent back. So I think immigration needs to be looked at. I'm not saying to stop immigration. I'm just saying that we need some kind of control over immigration to try and stop the hemorrhaging of the money, that's leaving the islands and stuff.
Better management of the grants that we get for the advancement of our people. It's one thing to get money from the U.S. It's another to make sure that that money is being used properly for the advancement of our people. Another thing, a lot of that money needs to be more put in our education. We're losing our youth. We need more of our youth to go into colleges, to get more educated, to get more knowledge, so they can come back and run this country better.
At present, more than 3.5 million U.S. citizens reside in America's territories in the Caribbean or the Pacific. If ranked among the 50 U.S. states based on population, overseas Americans would be larger than 22 other states in the Union. Reporting from the island of Guam, I am Irish Silverdam, EBC News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Irish Dale. Meanwhile, in Honolulu, a musician speaks to our Eagle News team there and urges Americans to not take for granted their right to vote. Mio Asanas reports.
On Election Day, our Eagle News crew visited the Honolulu Hale, which houses the mayor's office as well as the city council. We were expecting a bit of traffic around the building and a long line of voters choosing to vote in person. What we didn't expect was this.
Bobby Modero Jr., born and raised in Hawaii. It's such a beautiful, beautiful home to be from. And being an American citizen, it's such a blessing to be a part of the 2020 election, being able to express ourselves with the vote and seeing such a huge turnout fills my heart up with joy because I know that we all have something to say. What's really nice is being able to share my music. We have all these people waiting in line and it gives them something else to be excited about. I mean, we're excited to be able to vote, but when you have music, it lifts the soul, and we need more of that, especially, coming out during this time we have a pandemic and you're wearing your mask, social distancing, but being able to listen to music, it kind of calms your soul down, and that's why I love music so very much. And I had my wife and my daughters dance hula. It brings in the culture of Hawaii, where I'm from, right here into this beautiful time of voting in 2020.
We asked Bobby if this year's turnout would motivate more Hawaii residents to vote in the next election in 2022.
I think, with this kind of turnout, I think it's getting people really excited about the realization that if you do believe in change, if you do believe in the democratic way of doing, business in Hawaii, you have to show up. And the citizens of Hawaii know that we need to cast our vote. And I think this is going to be something, because I have a lot of young people now very interested in politics. So I think it's going to change. I think we're going to see a large demographic of younger people getting involved with politics, showing up to vote because they know they can make a difference. Being able to vote really gives us democracy, and we're very proud to be Americans.
As of this report, Joe Biden was elected as the 46th president. As for the local elections, former media executive Rick Blangiardi will succeed Kirk Caldwell as the next mayor of Honolulu. The actual number of Hawaii voters who cast their ballots this year is still being determined.
My daughters, yeah, thank you.
Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Mio Asenas with Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Mio. When we come back, updates from our Eagle News team in Edmonton, Alberta, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and a DIY feature with Nanita Manaus in Dallas, Texas. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Hindi mo ba alam, mauubos daw ang mga tissue products? Bakit naman? Ang raw materials daw ng mask at tissue products ay iisa lang. Saan naman galing ang balitang yan? Ay basta, narinig ko lang din. Maraming dilim kayang nagpo-post sa Facebook at Twitter, kaya kung ako sa'yo, pumuha ka na din. Sige na't mauna na ako sa'yo
Huwag basta-basta magpaniwala
sa mga nakikita
o nababasa sa social media.
Magsaliksik at i-verify ang lahat ng impormasyon
Nakukuha sa internet.
Tandaan,
maging responsable tayo
sa paggamit ng social media
nang hindi magdulot ng panic sa iba.
Kung paanong dapat labanan ng COVID-19.
Ay gayon din ang ating pagsugpo
sa black propaganda
at maling impormasyon.
Dennis Lu,
Lou Omelda,
Luigian Alpartosa,
Tyranel Pililu,
Hannibal Arevalo,
EBC,
Japan, Euro. We live in interesting times.
The search for the best continues. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is now accepting audition entries. Kung ikaw ay 21 to 59 years old at may angking galing sa pagsayaw, mapasolo, duo o grupo man, magpadala na ng audition entry. Narito ang mga guidelines. Para makapagpasa ng entry sa dancing category, contact Shing at 0995-880-8004. Ito na ang pagkakataon mo para maging tagisan ng galing grand winner at manalo ng 2 million pesos. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, i-like ang Tagisan ng Galing Facebook page. Kaya sali na!
We know that this is a scary time for all of us.
The coronavirus is changing the world.
Changing our lives.
So please, take care of yourself.
Keep your distance.
Wash your hands. And if you can, stay at home.
We at DW
are here for you.
We are working tirelessly to keep you informed on all of our platforms.
We're all in this together.
And together,
we'll make it through.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Please, stay safe.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Now let's head over to Canada, where Alberta Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness updates us on how Canada is coping with the rising number of COVID-19 cases. Thomas?
Thank you, Anna. Well, first of all, off a bit about the U.S. election. We're all relieved up here to see that settled. All of our political leaders up here have tweeted their congratulations to President-elect Joe Biden, and the country as a whole will be making the necessary adjustments and working out trade and other issues in the coming months. We know there will be disagreements, but we're looking forward to working with the new administration. Now, on to our main story. These are the kind of records we don't like to see. Canada, like many other parts of the world, is well into that second wave of coronavirus. And for us, at least, it's looking worse than in the spring. For the first time, the country has recorded more than 4,000 new cases of COVID-19 in a day. That happened today. And that's following 9 days where the case number exceeded 3,000. So what went wrong? Did the country open up too quickly? Do we need another lockdown? The quick answer for some is yeah, let's lock it down now. But let's look a little deeper. In my province, which recorded more than 900 cases on Saturday, the politicians and public health officials, well, they're stopping short of calling for business closures. You know, it's a tricky act, trying to balance the needs of the economy against the health of the people. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney worries about what he's seeing. Despite calls by some doctors to close a number of businesses for a couple of weeks, Kenney says we'll have to keep the economy going. He says people need incomes, they need to eat. He says forcing non-essential businesses to close again isn't the answer. How serious is the problem? Well, most of the cases, up to 40% of the cases, are related to social gatherings in people's houses, small private parties, and so on. And Kenney says that's got to stop. We've put a cap now of 15 on the number of people that can be at a private event, whether it's something like a reception or a party in someone's home. It's stricter in other provinces. And Kenney's observations are applying to the rest of the country. We're being told by our Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Teresa Tam, cut the social contacts by 25%. The government's goal here, at least, is not to completely eradicate the virus at this time. We need effective treatments and we need a vaccine before we can do that. The goal right now is just to reduce the spread to a manageable level where the fewest people are harmed and we can have some semblance of normality. And the message, at least here in Canada, when it comes to social situations, we must govern ourselves accordingly. So while we wait for normal times to return, I wish you all good health. Remember to take care of others and take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas. Now, I heard you say earlier 4,000 cases. Was that in one day? And how bad is this second wave, in your opinion, there?
Well, 5 provinces. First of all, that 4,000 was in one day. Now, consider this. If Canada's population is 1/10 of the U.S., that would be like 40,000 in your country. And I bet you're wishing you were at that level as opposed to what you are. But back here, 4,000 in one day, 5 provinces, including my own, have set daily records in the past weeks. And these numbers are concerning because they're happening in places where there's already restrictions in place, but the numbers keep going up. So clearly, people have fallen victim to COVID fatigue. They're not following the public health recommendations. They're just plain getting a little bit complacent.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's already in places where they're already, have the restrictions like you mentioned, the people are probably just tired and not, following fully. Now, would you say that this, that this was missed, this kind of increases in the summer?
No, you see what happened in the summer, people here could gather outside, and when you're outside, the risk is smaller. But it's cold now. Matter of fact, I was just mentioning before we went on the air, we had up to 40 centimeters of snow in my city, and it's about minus 17 degrees here with a wind chill. So we spend a lot more time indoors, and this happens for 6 or 7 months of the year, and that's just an ideal breeding ground for the virus. And remember, COVID is a very, very sociable virus, just loves a party, loves a gathering. So what we've got to do is limit our gatherings. And if we do gather, hate to say it, but we're going to have to wear masks inside if we have visitors.
Exactly, Thomas. Now, you also mentioned earlier, there's a people's opinion on should we have a total lockdown again? What's your opinion on that?
Total lockdown, you see, there again is that balancing act. You've got to have an economy, but to have an economy, you got to have healthy people. You've got to balance it. Some doctors have said, let's shut down all the restaurants, all the public gathering places, but that's not where the problem is. A relatively small percentage of cases come from dining out. As a matter of fact, it's safer to dine out than go to somebody's birthday party. Even though there are outbreaks in hospitals, this again is a concern.
Yes, how is that? I'm sorry. How is that affecting, since you mentioned hospital, how is that affecting the healthcare system there now?
Well, right now in the province, we've got nine hospitals that have COVID-19 outbreaks. We've set aside in Alberta 70 intensive care beds for COVID patients. About half of these are in use now, and that's getting at a critical point. The amount of care, the amount of resources it takes to treat these patients takes those resources away from other healthcare needs. Right now, elective surgeries are being canceled again. Intensive care beds may not be available for accident victims. So that 20-year-old who says, hey, I'm not going to get infected, and if I do, it's just going to be minor. It's no worse than the flu. Remember, if he's if he's critically injured in a traffic accident, there may not be an ICU bed available for him. Cardiac cases likewise could be affected. Other services could be eroded as more and more of those resources are directed away from COVID treatment. So again, it comes down to a lot of it now is just personal behavior.
Yes, absolutely, Thomas. That's all we can do right now. Well, hang in there, and I'm sure you and your family are doing your part.
We are pretty much staying home. I've become a hermit now. My life is here in this studio. But you take care in Las Vegas, and I look forward to the day when my wife and I can venture down there, visit with you and the rest of the Bureau, and we'll all go to a buffet.
Absolutely, Thomas. Thank you for your report, and we love having you here always. Take care. Now, more COVID news in Pennsylvania. $20 million in assistance have been granted to the homeless. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan has the details. Myla?
Thanks, Anna. Nearly $20 million is now available to assist Pennsylvanians currently experiencing homelessness. The Commonwealth received its second allocation of federal COVID-19 Homeless Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG-CV funds. And the Department of Community and Economic Development, or DCED, has set aside a portion of those funds to be used toward emergency shelter in preparation for the winter months of 2020-2021. According to Governor of Pennsylvania Tom Wolf, and I quote, "As winter quickly approaches, Pennsylvania is bracing for a surge in COVID-19 cases, all while continuing its usual work of providing shelter and services to those who are homeless. As we expect to see an increase in the rate of cases, we are also expecting to see a decrease in the amount of volunteers and resources this winter. This funding will help provide the tools that communities need to protect their residents, providing them safe shelter and preventing the spread of coronavirus further." Under a new grant program called ESG-CV Code Blue, applicants may apply for funding for emergency shelter and temporary emergency shelter to expand shelter for those experiencing homelessness. The program will prioritize the use of these funds to assist homeless providers and communities prepare for, prevent the spread of, and respond to COVID-19 through the use of emergency shelter and temporary emergency shelter components. Meanwhile, here's the latest coronavirus counts here in Pennsylvania. Based on the early warning monitoring system dashboard, the PCR percent positivity for the entire state is 6.9%, up from 6.1% last week. Last week also, there was more than 13,000 confirmed cases, up to additional 15,000 this week. Last November 6th, the highest as of now, there were more than 3,800 new cases in just one day. The health department has seen significant increases in the number of COVID-19 cases among younger age groups, particularly 19 to 24-year-olds. The numbers are really alarming. That's why the health department is encouraging Pennsylvanians to wear masks, maintain proper social distancing, and stay at home if you are not feeling well. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbulan, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla, for your report. Now, tell us what type of activities and programs are eligible for that $20 million grant?
So, Anna, only eligible activities may be used for any single activity or combination of, let's say, emergency shelter. That includes operations, essential services, hazard pay, and renovation. Temporary shelter also is one of the activities that that's allowed. Is that it includes essential services, operations, leasing of existing property, acquisition and renovation. There's street outreach is also included. There's also a need for, if you have a need for essential services, case management or hazard pay, those are also included. Anna?
Thank you, Myla. You know, there's a lot of government programs out there for the homeless. Hopefully, you know, the that message is getting out there. Can you tell us what kind of messaging is available or that's going on in your area?
Actually, they have websites that will inform all those eligible activities. There are also, of course, all those shelters are also informed to take advantage of all those grants that are allowed for them. Anna?
Okay, Myla. Well, thank you so much for your report. Looking forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myla. Stay safe there. Well, here in Nevada, Governor Steve Sisolak proposes a 12% budget cut for state agencies for the next 2 years. Eagle News correspondent Lori Jarvina explains the challenges of this task. Lori?
Thank you, Anna. Nevada has certainly been in the spotlight the last few days. So many things have happened throughout the whole course of this year that no one could have possibly predicted or planned for. But there is a saying, no one plans to fail, but some might fail to plan. In the case of Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak, he is definitely making an effort to plan ahead by taking precautionary measures with the state's budget for the next 2 years. This past Friday, while the majority of the population was anxiously awaiting election news and results, the Nevada Governor's Finance Office was busy planning ahead and announced that it had sent a memo to executive branch directors and agency heads directing all state agencies to prepare proposed budget reserves of 12% for each year of the upcoming 2021 to 2023 biennium. A biennium is a specified period of 2 years, a term often used when it comes to budgets and contracts. According to the nv.gov website, these reserve proposals are for budget planning purposes and will allow the Governor's Finance Office to provide options for consideration during the development of the Governor's recommended budget. Numbers will continue to be examined over the coming week as the state receives updated revenue projections from Nevada's Economic Forum and the executive budget for the 2021-23 biennium is finalized in preparation for consideration during the 2021 legislative session. Governor Sisolak also stated, and I quote, "Like many states, Nevada faces historic shortfalls as a result of COVID-19, and we must work together to responsibly prepare for the next biennium under the upcoming projections. I want to thank our state agencies for working with us on the challenging task of preparing budgets under our very difficult fiscal reality. And just as before, I know they will do so responsibly and with a goal of protecting as much vital funding for critical services as possible. Like Nevada families, the state must budget what we have in front of us in our current situation as we continue to monitor projections and updates." Governor Sisolak then went on to say that he would continue to work with federal partners and strongly advocate for direct and flexible relief funding for state and local governments to continue the essential work to protect the health and safety of all Nevadans. The request comes after Nevada wiped out its rainy day reserve fund of more than $400 million, and after lawmakers convened over the summer to close a budget gap of more than $1 billion for the fiscal year. Government-mandated restrictions that continue to limit capacity at businesses and events, combined with consumer hesitation to travel during the pandemic, have pushed visitor volume in Las Vegas to about half of what it was a year ago. According to a statement released by Governor Sisolak's office, all states are continuing to face devastating impacts to their budgets as a result of the COVID-19 recession, and Nevada is no exception. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Lori, for your report, for that thorough report, and we look forward to having you again with us next time. We also continue to thank our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers with a round of applause. We appreciate each and every one of you. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Kui, and we live in interesting times.